whenever you get back, I hope you guys get to connect, and I hope they're watching you. You're on a major network now. That's got to be something that not a lot of people grow up. I know a guy that is on Hulu, like,
Yeah.
and the series is currently like 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, that's huge. That's a big deal because there's
Yeah.
a lot of reviews, and the way Rotten Tomatoes works is, to get 100%, you pretty much need a small amount of reviews. But when you're on a network like Hulu, every reviewer in the world is going to have something to say. So for 80%, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to stick around for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I guess I think about that kind of stuff, but then I don't think about it. Like those things are all important to me. But that was like, I don't know. It is cool though. Like I'm proud of the work I've done and how far it's all come along. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
everything's a milestone, like it's a milestone, but it's not the end of the road. Like, yes, I'm glad, like
yeah,
you feel glad you did it, but there's more. There's more to do.
totally. That's a good way to put it. And I think maybe that's what it
Yeah.
is. Like I don't feel. I actually did see a friend from back home, and I was back in Alberta a couple months ago, and he asked me this question. He was like, "At what point do you feel like you can like let the gas off the or let your foot off the gas and feel like you've, I guess, quote unquote, made it?" And I don't know. I didn't really have an answer, and I don't know if I ever will. Like,
I don't feel like
yeah,
you're anywhere near there yet. I think you
yeah,
just got started, like
yeah,
from my
yeah.
outsider perspective, you've done some incredible stuff and your acting has been top notch, but I know in your own head you're like, I could have done that better. I want to do something like very different. I want to do this and that, and I can imagine like, you have a lot to go.
Oh yeah, yeah. I feel, and it's funny because like I've been at this for over a decade, so it's not like I'm brand new to it, um, but it does feel like it just has that marathon feel, and it's infinite. I have an acting teacher who says that acting is infinite, and I think that's true of the craft itself, and then also of the business and like just how big the world is and how yeah, where you can go with it, and yeah, it's just a huge network to explore, I think, and so it like
Yeah.
even after a decade, yeah, it's still feels just like scratching the surface.
And there's so many directions to go too. I obviously you love stage acting. There's TV, there's movies, there's series, there's independent series, there's shorts, there's just so many things you can run towards and try for. I think that's fantastic, and hopefully this milestone lets you more easily get to a direction you want to try. The one thing I did want to ask you though, have you ever taken a role that you perhaps didn't but you later thought maybe I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't a good fit for me. That was something that I struggled too hard on and didn't get good enough. Like, was there any role that you wish you hadn't necessarily taken, even if you did well or the production did well? This like, if I
Mm.
could do it again, I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I don't
And you don't
think
have to name it.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, I don't want you.
I
Some people take that personal.
yeah, no, no, no. It's like a really good question, and I don't think I have. I'm like, especially now, in the last year, I've been able to be more intentional about what I pursue and what I say yes to. But always, and again, this goes back to my upbringing, and a person in my life really early on said to me to work for the experience and not for the money. I remember hearing that when I was maybe, I don't know, 12 or 13, and that's always stuck with me. And so I never felt like I've taken something that I've necessarily regretted.
That's
Um,
fair. Yeah, I was just
yeah,
curious because
yeah,
it's the one question I've never asked anybody, and now I'm curious. Like, I want to find somebody's like, I never should have done that Coke commercial, or I never should have
yeah,
done something where I played a character that was so evil that people associated me with that sort of thing.
yeah. That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Luckily, I don't have yeah, a story
that's
for
great.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like you're like, no, I've loved everything I've done. I've been proud of it, which is
yeah,
that's huge too. I think my I can imagine if I were an actor, I would be like, "You want to give me a job? Sure, I'll take the job, whatever." Like until like
yeah.
I reached a certain point, but I'd have been uh, more of a I want to see myself on a DVD cover than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, that
Actually,
is true though. Go ahead.
I went and did a Pawn Stars episode just so I could be like on a DVD. I'm like, that's 100% of the reason I wanted to just see if I could. Hey, I'm on Netflix. My episode's up. Like that's
Yeah,
it. 'Cause
and you made it. You made it
that's it.
to
Yeah, I was on there.
the
Yeah, I
final cut.
sold a book by
Nice.
Weird Al.
Oh,
That was it.
nice.
That's my claim to fame. That's it. That's all I have.
Nice. Nice.
But so I wanted to touch a little bit on a side project of yours here, and I think Josh was actually going to introduce this question a little bit. So, you do audio production and sound design, and Josh found a. We're not going to play it. We found a meditation video that you did,
Oh
and I
yeah.
was wondering. It started off hilarious, and Josh, if you want to pop up, I don't know if you had a question specific that you came to, because I don't want to. This is your find, and it was amazing.
No, nothing particularly specific about it. I was just impressed with the project. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was an interesting thing, and we've been discussing another project doing some sound design, audio production sorts of things, and it was one of those things that I was really happy I was wearing headphones for at the time, because the way that the spatial sound worked in the beginning of that, and the things were done, I really enjoyed it, and it's something that we find very interesting as well. So it was really cool.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, it's that was a project that I jumped on in COVID. Like as soon as COVID hit, and there just was no work. A couple friends of mine from theater school got a grant from the National Theatre School of Canada to create something. I guess it was like a theater piece of some kind, but it was definitely an audio experience. Um, yeah, that could be consumed during the days of COVID. So that's what we came up with, and it was fun. I
Yeah.
had a fun time sound designing that, and that's so wild that came up. I'm glad
Yeah,
you
we
enjoyed
dig
it.
deep sometimes. I loved it, and I didn't hear in headphones, but I did notice that different styles were actually telling a story as well in my head, like because the way the actress's voice changed or would modify as it went on, and the story itself. I don't know if it was written to start out funny, because then it gets more serious, or if that was actually something you guys decided to keep in that was an outtake because it's that well done.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was written. I didn't have much to do with the writing process, but I think that was a deliberate aspect to have it
It
be a
worked.
bit. Yeah, yeah, and it was. I think it was supposed to be a bit tongue in cheek with like these meditation apps and stuff that you
Like
listen
I've
to.
never. I don't even meditate. I'll
You're not
do it.
huge into ASMR, Nathaniel? That's so weird.
No,
You seem like
that's
that
the
type of guy.
line. The line in the beginning of the thing.
Oh,
No,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
No,
But anyways,
that
we'll
was
put the link in the video. Yeah, Josh.
yeah, I dropped it in
yeah,
there.
yeah. I think Zaz put it up there, but that was one of the things that was nice and refreshing about it too, is that we've heard a bunch of these, and a lot of them work fine, and that's okay. And this started much like they do, but then that happened, and it felt more grounding. It felt like, oh, I can relate to this more, and this is a real person doing this instead of something else, and it felt better that way. It was like, oh, all right, I dig
Yeah,
it.
this is a human, not
Yeah.
some.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Not some AI construct, Josh. Is that
yeah,
what you're
yeah, exactly.
Whatever
AI.
jerks would do that. Yeah.
I got a. So you said you were introverted, or you tend to be introverted, and when one of the questions I have around that is when you play different roles. Some of them are obviously more extroverted or require you to be more gregarious or more vocal about how you're feeling. Does that take more of a toll on you as a human being? Do you need to decompress more after you do a role like that?
I think I think it's less about that. Like I think that's a huge like I do improv sometimes, and after an improv show, which is usually pretty high energy, and a lot of the characters are pretty like high energy and out there too.
Right.
It's such an adrenaline shot to the heart, and such a like a dose of dopamine. Like it just feels so good. What is like more challenging, I would say, is just the environment, like the social environment of being in the theater. Theater is such a collaborative process, and you're around a big team all day, and there's a lot of
Right.
social interactions that go with that. So I think I get more worn out off stage, or in a rehearsal where there's more, yeah, where you just kind of have to be more of yourself in those social interactions. But like, yeah, once I'm on stage and have that and have the spotlight, have the freedom to just let loose. I think there's actually something energizing about that, and not and less draining, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious about like knowing, because we interviewed an actress several months ago, and she is very much an introvert, and she plays a character on a TV show that is very much not. And
Mm.
we got into it a little bit, and I just kind of got stuck in my head like, I'm not an introvert in any meaningful way. I might not introduce myself, but after I'm talking to somebody, I'll talk their ear off, which is why I'm here. The so I'm curious, as a human being who's on the opposite side of that, what it's like just taking on a role of somebody way bigger than you. And yeah, I guess the day to day would be the more of the drain, and then you know where you stand in those situations. You know what's going to be said next, kind of a different feel.
Yeah,
Do I read
yeah,
you right?
yeah. That's exactly how it would feel, I think. I mean, there is something for sure of like, there is something a bit like, there's a bit of adjustment when people know you for who you are, and then to ramp up to a character, like, for instance, if I'm in a rehearsal, and I'm playing a character and everyone knows me as a slight more shy, like quiet guy, and then to ramp up into something that's a little bit more, yeah, extroverted, I guess. That does, yeah, take a bit of effort for sure. And I
But once
imagine
you're
that would be
there,
a bit draining. Yeah, once you're there and you've established it, then yeah, you
just
just
go.
let it fly. Yeah.
So the improv thing you talked about, I don't know if you watch any other podcast or interview type things. I know you watch our show every week. The just let me have that. Let me have it. The I've noticed in my learning more about improv that the yes and thing is what drives a lot of some of the podcasts, especially when there's two comedians on. Or I don't know if you've seen, there's a Dr. Phil kind of knockoff show going around that's huge right now. And when he has other comedians on, they yes and him, and he has
Oh
to
yeah.
stay in character, and he has to do the improv roles. And it's now fun watching these comedians really mess with each other because they all understand the rules of improv. And when you
Yeah,
understand like what's going on, I think it makes it a better show sometimes. So I
totally.
think everybody should be forced into a couple improv courses.
Yeah, I think it's great training for life. Is that the Pete Holmes?
Adam Ray.
No,
Uh,
Pete Holmes was. Sorry, what was that, Dan?
Adam Ray.
Sorry. Adam Ray does it, but Pete
Adam.
Holmes was just on.
Yeah.
He
Pete Holmes is also
killed.
Okay.
on too.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
Okay. I
killed.
saw a
He
clip of the
he.
Pete Holmes one. Yeah.
Anthony Jeselnik was on. I think last month, and he absolutely he was brutal in a way that I didn't even expect Jeselnik to be, but in a comedian to comedian way. So, and knowing
Okay.
the improv, like how improv kind of works, that made that like, that makes those shows even better, I think. And I think if you know improv, it makes you better able to bounce things off of people sometimes. Like a stranger
Yeah.
walks up, how do you interact? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Improv, I think, is amazing training for, yeah, not only like for performance stuff like that, but yeah, just for, yeah. I think it's just good life training
Well,
too. I don't know.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
for instance, when somebody walks up to you, they recognize you from the show or from something you've seen, or even if they were to theater the night before. How do you interact with them, like as an introvert and somebody who could who understands improv as well? Like,
Mm.
what's your initial reaction? Hey, aren't you that guy?
Yeah, I think those kinds of things, like especially like things like opening nights where you're talking to a lot of people who just saw you on stage, or things like that. I think what I try mostly to do is focus on the listening aspect, and trying to stay relaxed. I find the more I can just relax my body and just be present and take in what someone is saying to me, um, the better the interaction will go. And also the more stamina I'll have, because that's a perfect example of a situation that I find draining. Those kind of um, receptions, galas, like opening night parties. Yeah, Sometimes I find that I have not a lot of that drains energy pretty quickly. So yeah, I think I try to just focus on staying as relaxed as possible and just staying present. Even if I start getting uncomfortable, like I think that's the other thing too, like being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and just allowing the sensations to arise and watch them pass as they always naturally do. Um, yeah, I think that's probably the ideal approach
really
to a situation
you-
like that.
really
You're s-
I'd say that's really good advice. As you can talk, it's fine.
I know it's okay. I was just like, so you're advising it's a bad idea to be in your own head and completely be stressed out immediately, where you're thinking 20 steps ahead, get an anxiety attack, forget what you're supposed to say completely, and not know where you're at any given time.
Yeah,
It's
I
good
mean that
advice.
that could be entertaining too. That might create an interesting dynamic as well. But
That might happen to some of us when we do improv. I'm not going to name names.
oh man, improv is like, I think it happens to most improvisers. You know, I'm still like very much on the learning sort of path of improv, and it's hard, man. Yeah, it's hard not to think ahead and just be present. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do.
It's the present part, because I'm always trying to think, especially even doing this show, I try to think what I'm going to do next so I can prepare myself. And so it's hard to sometimes be present. Like you said, I haven't mastered that skill myself. Whereas most of this show is improv, it's still a tough skill to be present. I'm looking at you, I'm talking to you, we're having an interaction, but I'm already on to the next question in part of my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Not
that's
fair
probably
in some ways, yeah.
that's got to be part of the role. I'm assuming. I've never hosted a podcast or anything like this before, but I
Neither
assume
have
that's
I.
part of the first time. But I'd assume that's like part of the role too, is like moving it forward too, and like you kind of have
It's
to think
that
ahead sometimes.
it's a little bit of, like you said, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because I don't like seeing myself on camera. And I don't like hearing my voice, and I don't
Oh
like
yeah,
being noticed that much, like on that level. So it's like, just do it. It's fine.
yeah,
And I noticed that when I had to read lines for intros or outros or promos, that I feel ridiculous. I'm here with these same two people in front of the same exact setup, but because I'm reading lines, it feels very different. So
mm,
I think your advice, and I took it as advice, is to be comfortable with being uncomfortable is very important, and it's very timely for me anyway.
yeah,
So thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So uh, how much work would you say on a weekly basis, or whatever measurement you want, do you put into acting, into the craft of acting, learning, not just learning lines, but learning how to be better at what you do?
Man, it's like all of my time. Like honestly, I'm lucky that I don't have another job that I have to go to. At least right now, that could change. But
I don't think so. I think you're a full-time actor for the rest of your life.
yeah, I mean, I definitely will be full time, like focused on this. But sometimes, like it, and I've had it in the past too, where I had to take like survival jobs to to pay the rent and stuff like that. But I've been lucky in the last year and a bit to not have to do that. And so every day, um, yeah, how many hours? I mean, I probably put in, um, yeah, I probably work at least 10 hours a day on it, and probably every day. So 70 hours roughly. And
That's
that's like auditions, working on auditions, yeah, preparing lines, going to class, preparing material for class, yeah, doing marketing stuff, um, doing coachings, uh, yeah. And it's kind of like crazy to say 70 hours a week, but that's like, yeah, really all that I do. I don't really do anything
I,
else.
I will I will tell you, I haven't been doing this all that long, but I've talked with a lot of actors, and your attitude seems to be the one that sets certain people apart from others. You can luck into an acting job, you can luck into an acting career, but the people that I've been talking to have put so much work into it, and I think it was Bradley Stryker that he was very brutal with it. He's like, you can have jobs, you can get the jobs, but if you want to make this a living, every day has to be work. Every day has to be something new. Every day has to, like, it's constant work. And that's what I'm finding out from you too here, that like you're working above and beyond what you would if you had a 40-hour a week job. You are 100% dedicated to this. And
Oh yeah.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
this is
And it doesn't necessarily feel like I'm working either. I read this quote recently from James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, just like one of my favorite books. And anyway, the quote that I saw, he was like, "Whatever work that you're doing while you procrastinate is probably the work that you should be doing for the rest of your life." And so I think if I did have any like other job or like any other kind of side hustle, or if I decided to change careers, I know that I'd just be coming back to this kind of secretly and procrastinating my time by doing this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's like it's most days it's easier to get out of bed because I know what I'm going to be working on is stuff that I actually really want to be doing.
that's incredibly awesome. I can't. I just thought try to think of a better word, but you wake up knowing that you're going to do what you love. It just sounds like the dream. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
got there. I really am.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
not to say that it's always easy. Like there, like
Easier.
any job, it's easier, I guess. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's still like yeah, there's still struggle, and it's still there's still a lot of like uncertainty with this kind of job. I remember like I'll talk to people who aren't in the business at all, and like I don't know when the next job is going to be coming.
Yep.
And I don't know how much money I'm going to be making this. Like all these, there's always like so many big question marks, which is not always easy to navigate. So that it has, it all comes at a cost, I think.
Yeah. It takes a certain amount of bravery too. And there's another cost I wanted to ask you about was when you work this hard, how does it impact your relationships, like romantic or friendship? Like how is it, it has to take away from there because you're not working 9 to 5. You don't have weekends off, usually, So how has that impacted those relationships?
Yeah, I think what saved me is having friends who are in it as well and understand it and are like in the trenches, so to speak, with you.
Sure.
And so totally like we'll get it when you have plans, but then you blow them off because you've got an audition the next morning that's a tape that's due in 24 hours that you need to prepare.
You're like, I get it.
Yeah,
Mention me.
yeah. I just one of my best friends just got married a couple of weeks ago, and her partner Sarah is one of my actor friends as well, and they put it so well during their vows. Sarah was like, "Yeah, you know that when you're getting married to me, you're entering a threesome with my career," and I think it's so true. Yeah, it's just so all consuming sometimes. So it's important to be with people who understand
I get it.
that
Yeah.
that aspect.
So, with your limited time, like when you're on the set and you have, I'm just saying, like you don't have a lot of social life. I mean, you have a lot of social life, but whenever you're on set and you're working, I don't want to put you in a corner here. When you're on the set for like, let's say 1 to 6 months, and your pool of people that you see are the same people. Is that the one situation that you would feel is okay to date somebody at work? Because also after you're done shooting, you might not, you don't have to see them every day.
Mm,
Just, would
that's a
you
good
date
question.
somebody on set? Or is that like your rule is no, don't intermix work with romance?
And why is that a horrible idea? We have this question pop up a lot during our relationship advice show.
To why it's a horrible idea to date someone you're working with?
Coworkers tend to not really date well. I mean, I guess it might be different in your field, but a
That's
lot
why
of the
I'm
questions
asking,
we
yeah.
get, is a lot of blue collar or like just it's a lot of close quarters relationship stuff. So
Yeah. That's so funny. That's like
There it is.
This week's quote. Oh yes, it was a meme. Like it was literally every week. I would come
Every week
across.
somebody would call in with or call in or have an email question about,
Yep.
I like this guy at work. I don't like. So that naturally got it into my head because we're a relationship show as well.
Yeah.
In the acting world, or you don't have to necessarily answer specifically for you, would you say that's okay? It's not frowned upon, or there's like people like kid never date somebody on set, that sort of thing going on?
I don't know. That's
Have a great one. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Be safe out there. Treat each other well.